Welcome to this tutorial on how to extract the subtitles and audio from the PC version of the first Horizon game for the purposes of language learning. In this tutorial, we'll use some Python scripts to generate a couple of things. The first item is an interactive transcript of each conversation in the game with translations and audio playback. The second item is a curated Anki Deck. If you haven't come across Anki before, it's a flashcard program that can be used to learn vocabulary. The deck that we will make consists of words that are very common in the game but are less common in the general language. So, for example, machine, hunting and seeker are in the Anki Deck but not hello. The idea behind this is to allow you to focus on vocabulary that will help you to understand the game. I wrote these scripts so that I could more easily enjoy playing through the upcoming remaster for Horizon in a language that I'm currently learning, which is Italian. However, the scripts should work with any language that the game supports. On screen now is a table from the PC Gaming Wiki which shows the available languages. One thing to note is that only a subset of the languages have audio support. The scripts will still work with these languages, but the outputs will be based upon the subtitles only. Before we start running the scripts, I'll quickly show you the results of what we're building. This is the interactive transcript. It contains every spoken line within the game and is organised by scene. In the top right hand corner you'll be able to see the hamburger menu. If you click on this, you can see that it's been organised by quest type and you can click on each individual quest to jump to the dialogue that you're interested in. If we close this, we can look at the transcript itself. If you click on the speaker's name, the line will play back in your target language. Let me quickly demonstrate this.
L'alta matriarca Tirsa. Cosa ci fa qui?
The other feature is that you can click on each individual line to get the translation. Let me demonstrate this with this line. A couple of versions of the transcript will be generated, including versions that you can load onto your eReader, as you can see on screen now. Moving on, I'll give an overview of the Anki Deck. As mentioned before, the Anki Deck is designed to pull out the most common words in the game that you may not have came across in your other language studies. This is achieved by working out the frequency of each word in the game, and then removing the top 1000 most common words of your chosen language. This leaves the domain-specific words that you need to learn for understanding the game. The front of the Anki card is the word for you to learn, which will automatically play as soon as you see it. Let's open the deck now and we'll see this in action.
Macchine.
I'll now flip to the back of the card and you'll hear the word play again, plus an example sentence from the game.
Macchine.
Un conto è cacciare una bestia, ma con le macchine è un'altra cosa.
You will see that the definition has also been added to the card and that you can click to get the translation. We will now move on to running the scripts. There are three things that you need to have installed before you can start. Most obviously, you'll need the game itself. In this tutorial, I've used the Steam version, but if you're using a different name, you'll have to change some of the settings differently than what I'm going to show. In theory, it'll also work with other Decima engine games like Death Stranding, but you will have to make changes to the code for that to work. You'll also need Python and FFmpeg installed and added to your system path. I won't cover installing these here, as there are a million other tutorials out there, but I've added links to download them and tutorials for setting them up properly in the written version of this guide. Let's now get the scripts themselves. This is the GitHub page where the scripts are stored. If you're watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description for you. Click on the green code button and then on download zip. Extract the zip file to anywhere that's convenient to you. I'll show you the contents of the folder now. There are several folders and files in here. At this point, there are only two that you really need to worry about. Output is where you can access the Anki Deck and the transcript once you're done, and you can think of unpacked files as a temporary working folder that we'll extract the game files into. In order to run the scripts, we will need a terminal window that is linked to the current folder. The easiest way to get one is to type cmd into the address bar at the top, and then hit enter. We can now go back to the GitHub page to get the commands to paste in. Now we're back on the GitHub page, we can scroll down until we get to installing the Python modules. Each of the commands that we need to copy has a little symbol on the right hand side of the box. Let's do that for this first command that will install the Python modules that we need to run the script. We can now go back to the command window, paste it in and press enter. This ran pretty much instantly for me, since I already have everything installed, but it may take a minute or so for you. Don't close the window when you're done because we're going to be inputting more commands. Let's go back to the GitHub page for the next command. The next one that we need is under Update Settings. Again, just click the little button on the right hand side to copy it. Let's now paste it into the terminal window, press enter again, and we'll see that a file has now opened in Notepad. The file is quite big, but we only really care about a few things. Game root should be the installation directory of Horizon. I'll show you how to get this for Steam. Open up Steam and right click on the name of the game in your library. Click on Manage, then Browse Local Files. Another window has now opened. Click into the address bar to get the address, copy it, and then return to the Notepad document. You can now paste this path in. Keep the quotes and the R at the start because they're needed for the script to work properly. Native lang and target lang is where you set the languages that are used. Native lang is your own language and target lang is the language that you're trying to learn. This line at the top of the settings file states the way that each language should be written for it to be recognised by the script. When you're putting it in, make sure to keep eText languages on front of your language name and keep the capitalisation as per the line at the top of the script that we just looked at, otherwise it won't work. Include audio can be set to true or false. Setting this to false means that the scripts will run significantly quicker. True is required though for the audio to work in Anki and in the interactive transcript. Again, you need to watch your capitalisation. The first letter of true or false needs to be a capital and the rest lowercase. The next set of settings only need to be set if you're planning on running the script to create the Anki Deck. If you're just creating the transcripts, feel free to ignore them. Anki Max cards is the size of the Anki Deck. I don't recommend going above 1000, otherwise it will take quite long to run the script. Dictionary path is the path of a dictionary file that's in JSON format. This will be used to get the definition to put on the back of the Anki card. I won't go over getting the dictionary in this tutorial as it varies per language. However, I've left a link in the written guide to the vocab civ manual, which is a good starting point for the JSON dictionaries. Personally, I like the Vicon dictionary for Italian as it automatically levitises the words. Wiktionary is a good choice too. Word audio path is the folder where the MP3 audio is for each individual word, and this will be read out on the front of each of the Anki cards. The vocab civ manual is again a good starting point for this. When you do download them, make sure that you've extracted all of the files from any zip archives into the folder, as the script won't do that for you. I've also had much better luck with MP3 files than OGG files in Anki. If the audio doesn't work in Anki, this is probably the reason. Anki exclude is a list of names like Nora and Aloy that we don't want in our Anki Deck. If your target language is European and uses the Latin script, you probably don't need to update this, as the names will likely be the same as in English and Italian. However, if your language uses different names for the characters and places, then you can update this if you choose. It also might just be easier and faster to just suspend the cards within Anki instead. The rest of the settings are only needed if you're making changes to how the code functions, so we can save and close this document now. We'll now go back to the GitHub page for our next command. We now want to scroll down to Extract Game Files and then click on the next copy icon on the right hand side. As before, we'll go back to our terminal window, paste it in and press enter. You'll see that a window for Decima Explorer has now popped up. Click on Browse and go to where your game is installed. If you've forgotten this, you can go back to Steam to get it again. Within the game folder, there's a subfolder called Packed DX12. Click on this folder and then open. Now click on any of the files that have appeared and hit Ctrl F on your keyboard for find. Type localized, then a /. Just note that you're going to have to spell this the American way rather than the British way. Click again on any of the files and hit Ctrl-A on your keyboard to select them all. Now hit Extract and then choose the Unpacked File subfolder within the folder that we downloaded at the start of this tutorial. A message box will say extraction finished once it's complete. The next stage is to just copy and paste a few commands. Let's go back to the GitHub page to get them. Scroll down to dump language files and then click on the copy icon to the right hand side. So now back to our terminal, paste it in and press enter. This may take a little while to run. Once it states done, we can move on to the next step. As you can probably guess, it's time to go back to the GitHub page. Scroll down to the next command under Build Interactive Transcript and click the icon to copy the next command. Again, go back to the terminal, paste it in, press enter. If you enabled audio in the settings, it will probably take over an hour to run since there are over 30,000 files that need to be converted from the PlayStation audio format into WAV files and then compressed into MP3. Stepping forward in time, you'll see that that's now complete. Before we move on to the final step, I'll quickly show you each of the files that we have now made. Go to our main working folder and then into output. The HTML file ending in toggles is the interactive transcript that I showed off at the start of the video. The one ending in quests only is basically the same, but it's been filtered so that it only contains the dialogue for quests. The reason why this exists is that I found that the full version was very laggy on some web browsers like Edge, but was somehow perfectly smooth on others like Safari. Next we have the one ending in always show native, which always shows the translation. I put this in my eReader for checking that I understand what's going on. I also stick the one ending in no NL onto my eReader as it only contains the target language data. The spreadsheet ending with subtitles is the data that was used to build the transcripts and is mainly used as an input for the next stage. On the subject of the next stage, we'll now build the Anki Deck. Go back into the main folder, then into Reference. In here you will find a spreadsheet called Top 1000 Words. If your target language is in Italian, it's already set up for you and you can move on to the next step. Otherwise you'll need to set it up for your language. Let's open it now. Any words that appear in the spreadsheet will be filtered out from your Anki Deck, with the idea being that it's more useful to focus on the Horizon specific language as you will likely already have a foundation in the language. The data that goes in here is recommended to be the top 1000 most frequent words within your language, also referred to as a frequency list. The best source for frequency lists will depend on your language, but I'd recommend that you check out Wiktionary first. I've provided a link in the GitHub page. Although the spreadsheet is called Top 1000 Words, it doesn't actually need to be 1000, this is just a guideline. It can even be 0. There are just 2 rules that you need to abide by so that you don't break it. The words must be pasted into column B of the spreadsheet, but the other columns can be whatever you like. The headers, which are found in row 1, must be kept the same, even if you have 0 entries. If we scroll down to the bottom of this list, you'll see that I've got slightly more than 1000 words. This is because I've added in additional words to be filtered out. Rather than doing this, I could have just suspended these cards within Anki, but I like how tidy it is to do it this way. Save and close this spreadsheet, and let's go back to GitHub for our final command. Scroll down to the Anki section for the final command, and as before, click on the copy icon on the right hand side. It's now back to the terminal for the last time to paste it in, and again, press enter. This script may also take a little while to run. Once it states done, there'll be 2 new files in the output folder. The APKG file is the Anki Deck. Just open this file and the Anki import process will begin. The other is the spreadsheet, which contains the frequency analysis in case you want to take a look. With that, we're now done. If you want, you can delete every folder apart from output to save in space. If you aren't interested in the interactive transcript and have already imported your deck into Anki, you can even delete the output folder if you'd like. If there are any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. The scripts on GitHub are all open source, so you can also adapt them for other games and other use cases. If you do, please let me know as I'd be very interested in checking them out. I hope that this tutorial was helpful.